to CodeCraft, exploring engineering.
CodeCraft, ja, Blizzard-Spiele programmieren.
Wow, what an amazing audience. Thank you for being here. So welcome to CodeCraft, Exploring Engineering here at Blizzcon 2018. We're excited to be with you today. Excuse me. We're also excited to welcome our virtual ticket holders. To everyone watching from around the world, we're glad you can join us. My name is Samir Assad, and I'm honored to be here today. I also work at Blizzard, and I'm the Senior Engineering Manager on the Overwatch team. Today you're going to meet and hear from 5 amazing software engineers working at Blizzard. But first, let's talk about how the panel works. We're going to start with introductions, and as we go along, I'll share interesting facts about each of the folks here on stage. After that, we'll move on to some discussion. We've prepared a question for each of our panelists, which we hope you'll find interesting. Then we'll go over to you, our audience, here at BlizzCon for some Q&A. So, let's get started. Panelists, please introduce yourselves.
Hi BlizzCon, I'm Rochelle Davis. I'm a senior software engineer on a new project, and I've been at Blizzard for about 7.5 years.
Rochelle was an original member of the Hearthstone team. Yeah. Good. All right. Rochelle was an original member of the Hearthstone team. She saw the game from prototype to launch and through its first years as a live game. Fun fact, she didn't learn to code until she was 19, having spent most of her time in musical theatre. She loves doing outreach, especially when it supports future talent and diversity in tech and gaming.
My name is Bruce Wilkie. I'm a principal software engineer on the Overwatch team. I work on the engine and graphics rendering technology.
Some of you, let's hear it for Bruce. Some of you may recognize Bruce's name from the Overwatch forums. Bruce is a champion for all of the different PC specs from min to max for Overwatch. He's frequently helping players out with crashes and performance issues. He's also a specialist on rendering tech for Overwatch heroes such as skin, hair, armor, eyes, and he also works on the tech that enables the ambient light, reflections, and shadows in the amazing Overwatch environments.
So my name is Diane Cochran. I'm a lead engineer on a new project, and I've been with Blizzard for 8 years now.
So in her time here at Blizzard, Diane helped put together our company's approach to continuous integration. She was also a lead engineer for the Battle.net desktop app, Blizzard's public API platform, and our authentication and authorization infrastructure. She moved from web and mobile to work on a new project as lead software engineer.
I'm Colin Murray. I'm a lead software engineer on the World of Warcraft team, and I've been with Blizzard for about 23 years.
Years, folks. So Colin has written code for Diablo, StarCraft, Warcraft 3, and every version of World of Warcraft. He has also worked on nearly every major system in the WoW codebase. Some highlights are the movement system, the object manager, the model rendering and animation system, and the streaming file system. He heads a small team of engineers who work on low-level backbone systems, and they're always working hard to make sure the game is running as smoothly as possible.
Hi, my name is Sarah Dobler. I am a technical lead on Battle.net Schools, and I've been with Blizzard for almost 14 years.
So folks, Sarah started at Blizzard as a game master shortly after WoW launched and worked towards a position in development by building internal tooling and taking database classes on the side. She was an early member of the web team where she worked on Blizzard.com, the support side, and the original WoW Armory, and the platform that provides the content for our modern community sites. She's currently leading up the tools team on Battle.net Her team's products include the recently launched Blizzard Battle.net developer portal, as well as a number of web applications that power the Battle.net platform behind the scenes. Okay, now that introductions are done, let's go to some questions that we've prepared for the panel. My first question is for Rochelle. Rochelle, what is the difference between prototype code and production code?
That is a great question. And I would say that the biggest difference between prototype code and production code is the questions that you're asking when you're in each mindset. So when you're doing prototype code, what you're going to be looking for is finding the fun. At Blizzard, we have a core value that's gameplay first, and that's kind of where we start with all of our games, with all of our new projects as well. What's the fun of this game? What's the core loop? So we look for finding the fun, and that means we're not really interested at the beginning in how is this going to be performant? What's the perfect tech stack look like? How do we scale this to millions of users? Those aren't really prototyping questions. When I first started on Hearthstone, the game was not announced. We were called Pegasus back then. And we were still finding the fun. We were doing a Flash prototype at the time. And it wasn't about how is this going to scale, what is this going to look like when we launch. It was about how does Hearthstone feel for the players and what's fun about it. And then over time, we found that we were getting that right on the money. We were finding the notes that were fun in Hearthstone. So much so that we had to ask certain parts of the company to play less and work more, including our own team. So we actually started transitioning at that point into asking different questions. This doesn't happen overnight, this happens gradually. But those questions started to be more like, how do we scale this to multiple servers, multiple modes, millions of users, hopefully. And that is when you know you're kind of entering a production mindset. This doesn't mean that your prototype code and your production code need to be in totally different languages or code bases. There's other ways to transition. But the questions that you're asking start to change, and that's how you know that you're ready for production.
So thank you, Rochelle. Now. Okay, on to Bruce. So Bruce, Ash and Bob are the latest additions to the hero roster in Overwatch. How does someone working on the rendering engine help a new hero join the Ash?
Ash is a great addition to the hero lineup in Overwatch. Hopefully if you're here at Blizzcon, you've had a chance to try her out in the demo area or at home seeing some videos. It came up yesterday, I think, in the What's Next panel, but Ash was very technically challenging because there is actually, her ult is an entire new hero. It's Bob. Bob is just like a player. You can buff Bob, you can heal Bob, you can, anything you can do to a player, you can do to Bob. And so when the designers came to us and said, you know, we want her to have this kit, they were very adamant about that. You know, we had to actually work a lot with them to figure out how we were going to make that happen. One of the ways that we do that is when all heroes in Overwatch have a memory budget. And, you know, they can only take so much memory because we have to run on min-spec machines and IM machines at high frame rates. So Ash and Bob have to fit in the same budget that something like Tracer has to fit in. So to do that, when you see Ash, when you see Bob, you aren't always seeing the same versions of Ash and Bob. In Hero Select, for example, you see a very high quality Ash because it's just Ash and Bob's there and she's right up close to you and you want to see high quality. When you see Ash and Bob in a highlight intro or in the hero gallery, you see a lower quality version because there's more stuff going on, there's different things around. And finally, when you see them in gameplay, you're seeing a different version yet. The textures are more compressed on Bob, so they'll fit in memory. The polygon count is lower, so the frame rate can stay high. And we do all this so that, you know, people on the min specs, they can play the game. People on mid-range machines can play the game at a higher frame rate. So everyone can enjoy our game, not just people with high-end machines.
Awesome, thank you, Bruce. And now Diane. You've had an interesting journey to becoming a software developer. Can you share with us how you got into the field?
Sure. Wanted to bring this up just because it's a little different than most people. I actually wanted to be an aeronautical engineer the entire time that I was growing up. And it happened to be in about the summer of '97. I had a friend of mine sit me down in front of a computer and have me play a video game. And that video game was Diablo. And as I was playing through, every time that I would reload the game, because I was terrible at it, I started to notice that all the levels were different. And it blew my mind. I was like, how in the world can you make a game that does something like this? So not knowing anything, I go out and I buy a book on computer repair. Get home, start reading through it, and go, oh, crap. From there, I started picking up other things that got me, closer and closer and closer to actually becoming a software developer. I picked up a book on Visual Basic and learned how to make calculators in it. Went, oh, well, video games use C++, so let me grab a C++ book and start writing, a Shadowrun character generator out of it. And then finally it was like, oh, OpenGL. OpenGL is the thing. And, I poured my way through the OpenGL Red book, like learning everything that I needed to do, and slowly started doing things like, building a graphics engine and doing other things. Now, of course, this was happening, as I said, in the late 90s, and as, a number of people know, that's when the dot-com boom happened. So I ended up getting my start by moving out to Los Angeles and getting into web development, and that's where I spent most of my career. And, that's the reason why, like in the intro, a lot of those things are, working on infrastructure and websites and everything else. But I'm now at the point where I get to spend like literally every day coming in to do the thing that Blizzard, so many years ago got me inspired to become a software developer over. And for me, that's just, it's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you, Diane. Next is Colin. Colin, how does the World of Warcraft team manage finding and fixing software bugs with such a complex game?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. Thank you. So we have a lot of customers, a lot of people online, and as you might expect, occasionally some of them encounter a failure. Some of you may have seen the Blizzard error dialog pop up. You put in your little message and you hit send to Blizzard. So how do we collect all of those and how do we sort through them all and make sense of it? It can be a fairly large amount of data. So back in 2004, we just had one guy in a Perl script, and that's how we sorted through it. As you might expect, it didn't work so well. So we started to develop a system for sorting through these errors and aggregating them and making sense of them in order to better prioritize our efforts. So now we have a system called exceptions that's able to categorize the errors and prioritize them for us so that we can tell which errors we should work on first. So we can collect a crash log and a dump file. The dump file allows us to load it into the debugger and see the error as though it happened right there at our desk at that moment. And in the exceptions interface, we can see all of the various pieces of data that we've collected, like what was your locale, like what language were you playing the game in, what kind of machine were you running on, was it a particular flavor of Intel PC, what graphics card and exact model was it. Occasionally there are patterns that emerge from these things, and that helps us focus our efforts. So using all of this, it allows us to better focus our efforts so that we can prioritize the errors that are affecting the most number of users and help people get back playing as quickly as we can.
Thank you. Okay, folks. Before I move on to Sarah, we're going to get to our Q&A section in just a moment, and I'd like to invite members of our audience who have questions for the panel to start lining up, queuing up on the mics that we have set up on the floor here. Okay, Sarah. We recently launched the Blizzard Battle.net Developer Portal, where community developers can go to consume game data via APIs. As a member of that team, can you talk about how community API support got started?
The very first community API was the World of Warcraft Armory. Back when we created it, we chose a front-end tech stack of XML XSLT, which meant that we were delivering the XML data separately from the XSLT style sheet. Now, we had intended to release a website, but a really interesting phenomenon occurred. The majority of our traffic wasn't human. It was automated. It was API developers that were consuming the XML character profiles, and they were using them to power fan sites and client applications and signature generators and just about everything you could think of. So we geeked out about that. And then we started making decisions that were intended to keep the API developers going. When it became time to actually retire the original Armory, we were adamant that we did not want to move on from the Armory as a website without also having a replacement for it as an API. And to that end, we actually left the old armory running alongside the new World of Warcraft community website, solely for the purpose of serving character profile XMLs. And in the meantime, we worked on the first World of Warcraft REST API. The REST API exposed the same data that the armory had, and it had some of the same maintainability problems the armory did. But what made it special was that it was our first standalone intentional API offering for the community. We wanted to level up from there, and this is where Diane was actually involved during her web and mobile days. The web team went to the game teams, and we agreed upon proto-buff contracts to which they could push their game data to us. And they gave us the ability to expose more data than you could get just by scraping the site, and to support some games besides WoW. So that was the beginning of the game data APIs that we use today, and we support them for World of Warcraft, for StarCraft 2, and for Diablo 3.
Okay. Okay, thank you everyone for sharing your experiences with our audience. Let's go to the Q&A section now, and I believe we have our first question right over here.
Hi everybody, my name is Scott, and I work with Blizzard Entertainment.
Hi Scott.
I just have one question very quickly before we turn it over to other folks here, and that is, Diane and Rochelle, you mentioned that you're working on new projects, and that sounds very, very exciting. What can you tell us about those new projects?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Everybody hear that?
I can talk about my product.
Okay, good to know. I'm sure we'll have exciting news in the future. Thank you.
Lul.
We have a question over here. Go ahead.
Hi everyone. My question is for everyone. I just wanted to know, what software do you guys use on a daily basis, and does it vary from game to game, or do you guys all use the same IDE or anything like that?
So on the World of Warcraft team, we're primarily using the Microsoft developer, MS developer. So we're on 2017 at this point.
Yeah. On Overwatch, we use Visual Studio as well, 2017. We use, different SDKs and whatnot to target the consoles, because we're not just PC, we are on the consoles. So we have to use some third-party tools that, Sony provides and Microsoft provides and things like that as well.
I would say for me, VS Code is actually an application that I've been using a lot of. To the point where I'm currently using it to do C++ development, which makes all the Visual Studio users go, what the heck? But yeah, that, and then also this is just kind of a general thing, I highly recommend people learning the VI bindings for people who can really get through it. It's a great way to speed up your software development and the ability to write out code.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Let's go to our next question on this side.
Hi, so I'm Josh. I'm part of the web developer API community. So this is like a group question for many developers. They want me to come up and ask this. So with experiences inside the game and outside the game, they're important, especially for interactions inside the game as well as outside the community. With the launch of the new developer part, thank you by the way, very awesome. What do you see as a future development for that? And are you planning to support more games over time, like Hearthstone or Overwatch? And what is the capability of expansion we're looking for to just introduce more developers to this type of community?
Who wants to take it?
No.
I'm actually having a little trouble understanding the question.
Oh, do you mind repeating the question? Maybe can we get the mics a little louder? It's hard for us to hear.
Just what is the best way to Blizzard's looking forward to invest in API communities for Overwatch and Hearthstone and kind of improve the quality of life for current developers invested in the current APIs, basically.
Gotcha. Well, one of our goals this year has actually been to make the authoring experience easier for the API publishers. One of the issues we had was just the barrier of entry to releasing new APIs and to releasing improvements to the APIs that we currently have. So one of the big deals with the developer portal and API gateway was to try to smooth that out, just make it as easy as possible for us to bring something new to market. As far as ways that we can hear from the community, we read every post in the Blizzard API Developer Forum. And that's probably one of the biggest ways that we get community feedback.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll go to this side.
Hello, my name is Zach, and this question is probably one that you get a lot about, like, education paths for younger developers who didn't get into that, like,
Interessantes Shirt, Junge.
like 10. So right now, there's not a lot of educational paths for game development unless you're specifically into, like, arts and graphics and modeling. So going into programming, for example, my program would have to have me take, like, Linux classes, and
Das
then
liegt auch
some
für ewig.
Python, and then some C++, and then the next program goes back to Linux. So is there a suggested path or degree or goal for someone who's trying to teach themselves later, like in college, like classes that would take to help get into game design?
I would start by saying it is never too late. It is never not an option to learn to code. I mean, as Somer mentioned, I didn't start coding until I was 19. I happened to be in college at the time, so I had classes and a major available to me to do that. But that said, there are a lot of different paths even post-college. There are a lot of different online resources. And I think one of the best things that you can do for yourself is try to give yourself a small goal of this is what I want to create. So for instance, if you wanted to get into games development, you might go home tonight and say, I wonder how I would build Tetris. You're not making rocket science in terms of a new game, but it's really great to learn how a game is made from end to end. So give yourself something small and achievable to learn to do it, and then you can find a ton of online resources and suggestions on how you might start, and then you might find yourself down a path of a new language or a new architecture or a new data structure. But there's a lot out there where you can start with a small project.
Yeah, and kind of following on with Rochelle, like that's exactly what I did in order to become a software developer. Right? So it was basically just picking up a book and going, hey, what's the smallest thing that I can do to start learning some of the stuff that just at the moment didn't make any sense to me. And every time that I took one step, I knew a little bit more, I could go a little bit further. And it just starts compounding, right? So if you start with something really small of like, hey, I now know how to do a for loop, right? And then you go from that to, oh, well, if I can do a for loop, maybe I can make a game of Snake, right? And then from a game of Snake, maybe I can start doing all of these other things. And it just gets bigger and bigger as you go.
Okay, thank you. On this side, please.
Hi, my name is Andrew, and I'm a computer science student right now, and I have been working on projects, small projects like you were just talking about. And I was wondering how you would show that in a resume or like a cover letter, show off my skills.
If you're working on projects outside of class, that's a huge win. Like you really want to let us know about that. You definitely want to talk about that in your interview. I've mentioned it on your resume. That's something that I always encourage people to do.
Yeah, as a hiring manager, if somebody were to put their GitHub profile on a resume, and there's other things that like pique my interest, I'm definitely going to go look at that and see what somebody's putting together.
Well, +1 on the GitHub, that's really a good place to go. If that's on your resume as a top line, that lets me just go look at some of your code, look at your samples. If anybody out there is a shader writer, doing something on Shader Toy or whatnot, or some of the WebGL sites, so that you just put those links right in your LinkedIn or your resume, and I can just go see what you've done. Like it's really helpful when I'm interviewing people.
And be sure to curate that as best you can as well. That's representing you as an engineer and the skills that you have. Put your best foot forward there when you do that. So when we look at it, we can really see what you can do.
Yeah, go to this side.
Hey, I'm Rob. I found it really interesting yesterday at the Overwatch What's Next when they were talking about, as you mentioned, the memory budget issues with Ash and Bob. And I was wondering, on the flip side of that, are there ever situations where the team brings you a character and you've got plenty of budget left? Do you bring it back to them and say, hey, you can add some cool stuff? Or do you just kind of step back and go, well, I guess those matches will play a bit better?
That would be awesome.
Awesome!
Let me think. I don't think that's ever happened. So our artists, when they make textures, when they start, they actually make it at 4K, 4096 resolution, like just ginormous textures, really. So it's really never a case of, we didn't use all the budget. it's always a case of we have this hero that takes about 200 to 300 megabytes. Okay, now we have to get it in budget. How do we do that? So, I mean, it would be great one day if that happens, but at this point, I don't think that'll work out.
Artists are aware of the budget, and they usually try to push the limits.
Yeah,
As they should.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What sorts of challenges do you face making MMOs and esports that developers of other large online services don't normally have to deal with?
So one of the biggest issues that you have to deal with on a org is when you're releasing an update, say to your art files or your terrain data or whatever, you have to worry about patch size. And that's not something most other games have to worry about. You're continually patching, and so you want to minimize the amount of data you have to push over the wire to those users. That's something other games don't really have to deal with very much.
I'd also say that our games are global, and so we try as much as we can to give all players across the globe the same experience, and different teams approach that different ways, but that is a challenge that there's a lot of thought, especially engineering thought behind. That means scale, that also means simultaneous launch sometimes it means staggered launch, making sure that we're thinking about all of those things. That goes, all of us have to think about that on all the things that we do.
For Overwatch, something that's challenging for the entire engine team is when we run at the competitive level, they want the highest frame rate possible to have the lowest input lag. So we're routinely trying to push that 300 FPS limit to make sure that they can get that. And for us, that's just a crazy fast frame time. So we have to make sure that we take advantage of multi-core. We have to make sure we don't have big spikes in frame times, all that kind of stuff. And that's really challenging for an engine team.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you.
Alright, hi, my name is Ari. I am actually a student for computer science. I'm in my 3rd year. I'm applying to an internship this summer. And I was actually, sorry, there we go. So my name is Ari. I'm applying to the computer science internships this summer. And I was actually wondering what some of your favorite algorithms to use or implement were, and if you guys had any resources that you really like for algorithms off the top of your head.
So I would encourage you to just read up on all the various major data structures, hash tables, linked lists, know the appropriate data structure for the appropriate instance, right? And not everything's appropriate for every case.
I would say, to me, there's like core object-oriented design principles, things like the solid fundamentals. I'm a big fan of, Uncle Bob. If you, search the internet, you'll probably find some stuff on him. But those things can actually transcend what language you're working in, what focus area you have. So if you went into, let's say, web development, it still applies. If you're doing game dev, it still applies. And those, to me, are really the things that you should be focusing on first. And then it's like, from there, the data structures. And then from there, it's like more, I'd say, like domain-specific stuff.
I'd also like to throw in there, I know your question was about like technical side, but there is a really important aspect to something that we all do every day, which is communicate with other disciplines and communicate with fellow engineers. So I started as an intern at Blizzard. I went through the internship program. I highly recommend it. And my first manager was somebody that I wanted to know later. What did you see in me? Why did you hire me? Why did you pick me? I was sure they had other applicants. And I eventually asked him this about 2/3 of the way through my summer. And I thought it would be because I had some great knowledge of coding structures and architecture or some perfect answer to some technical question. The answer was because you made eye contact. And it doesn't mean that I didn't know those other things, but that was actually what made me stand out, was that I was able to have a conversation and that I was thinking about how I came off when I communicated. And that's something to not neglect, because you will do it every day as an engineer.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Nick, and I'm an independent developer, and I had an interesting question about World of Warcraft, possibly for Colin. World of Warcraft aesthetics are like, at this point, there's a number of interesting aesthetic quirks that are almost like, they look like they're a result of legacy optimizations, whether it's like for rendering or for networking code. Like, you see still a lot of like transforms desync with animations. You see like game events not quite lining up with a bunch of different visual events. Or you see there's a bunch of different like animations or particle effects that are pre-rendered that don't pop off for like the game clients. And it makes a really iconic experience. You know you're playing World of Warcraft when you mount up and like you see the particles, the flashy particles like bounce along with your character while they're riding on the mount. And I want to know, what is this still in the game for a purpose? Is this like something that the designers have like said, oh, you know, this is super iconic for World of Warcraft. We can't change the fact that entangling roots now runs along with your character. Like, we can't change that because it's, you know, it's part of the game. Is this something that coders are always like, oh, well, we could fix this now, but it's too important to the look? Or how exactly is the interplay between design and code in those instances?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say there's any sacred cows with regard to code. We're always looking to improve and optimize, and yeah, there's definitely a distinct look to the engine because, you know, it is a custom render engine that we built from the ground up. So it does have its own look. It's got its own material system, its own animation system, its own tools. So it will give a certain look, but we do transform it over time. We are always building and adding stuff to the render system, to the animation system. So I think if you were to go back and look at the original shipping Brownbox in 2004 and compare the look of that game to what you see now in Battle for Azeroth, the look is pretty distinctly different.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, next question, please.
Hey there, my name is Max. I'm a backend engineer working on the enterprise side. When I look at our automated tests, I see that we have some really well-defined inputs that lead to some really well-defined outputs. And then I look at games, and you have all these really complex inputs leading to these really complex outputs, and all this interplay between different systems. And I'm wondering, how do you deal with dealing with that in an automated testing fashion when you have such complex inputs and outputs?
So I know for me, as somebody who's a bit of a TDD advocate, I use unit testing to be able to quickly know exactly where a problem is, right? It should be a thing if one line of code changes, one test breaks, you know exactly what test it is, you can immediately get there. The second thing that you do kind of on top of that, and this is in my world, because some people really like integration tests more than unit tests, or unit tests more than integration tests, is use those integration tests to be able to say, hey, here's random input. Make sure that the system doesn't fall apart when this happens. Or, you know, here's a simulation of somebody actually playing a game. Make sure that, you know, everything doesn't fall apart. So for me, solving those like complex bits that unit tests can't really do, or they're really not like efficient to do, that's where I would use integration tests to be able to do that in an automated fashion.
I'd like to add to that too. This is definitely true on Hearthstone. We talked about this a lot. There are a lot of permutations of cards. How do you get the full scope of everything? It's very difficult to find coverage. But there's also the look and feel, and that kind of visceral feeling that you get when you're playing, when a card is hovering, when there's movement. Some of the UI components that it's harder to capture in an automated test. So we couple that with QA testing that is done manually, because we have to make sure that we're thinking about both. We want to make sure our player experience is just as good as, you know, covering as well.
Thank you.
Go this side, please.
Hello, I just had a question for you guys, because you have work on these games with huge scopes and legacy code. How do you go about solving problems, you know, using a similar pattern and then adapting like new patterns? You know, like maybe you have a certain design pattern that you work with to solve a certain set of problems, and then you figure out or you learn about like, oh, maybe there's a new way to fix this problem. If that makes sense to you guys.
Well, that's really something that we come across a lot, because on Battle.net, some of our code is as much as 10 years old. And over that course of time, it's not even just that the pattern you chose is wrong at the time. The pattern, you get more opportunities. You maybe want to, you might want to change the same vertical 2 to 3 times over the course of its life to take advantage of new tech. And one of the ways that we found is really by trying to isolate different concerns, so that it becomes easier to upgrade one concern without having to refactor your entire code base.
some of the other things that come up are, over time, our use of a system will change. So we may have built a system to solve a certain problem many, many years ago. This is a big deal for World of Warcraft. I mean, we've been in development since 1999. I think some of you were born over there. So over time, our use of the system. So the use of the system may change over time, and so the demands on that system will also change. And so that we have to rethink the design of that system and possibly rewrite it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Hi, my name is Jason Alvarez, and I wanted to ask about a career-related question gained to Blizzard. So in 2015, I graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering, the minor in Software Engineering. The last few years, I've worked in an industrial company, basically designing large tanks with SolidWorks and AutoCAD and what have you. And I had a question for myself, and also my other brother named Ryan, who completed a degree in computer and electrical engineering in 2016 and has worked in utilities company recently at ASML as a support engineer. But anyways, I just want to ask on behalf of us, like, you know, it's really hard to find like the niche or the entrance into a career at Blizzard when you have, you know, the undergraduate year and internship programs, and then you have so many abject, you know, for the last few years, like always these senior software positions or more senior positions open that require a lot more years of experience directly in the field. And there's not really a place for us in the middle who are engineers, but you know, don't fit in either box. And I was just wondering, what advice could you give to my brother and I, who's not here, but just, you know, yeah.
Meine Güte, Schwätzer!
To find a career at Blizzard, how would you get a start in considering our positions?
Mach doch mal einen Punkt!
I would say your passion will shine through in your cover letter most of all. And you should apply, you should apply, you should apply, and if I didn't mention it, you should apply. There's something that I deal with as an engineer, and I've talked to a lot of other engineers and honestly other developers who talk about their imposter syndrome, thinking that they don't have the skills necessary to do a job, or they look at a list of requirements and see the two that they can't do, and therefore they shouldn't even put their name in a hat. So even if you think maybe you're not at that senior level, but you hit most of the bar, try it out. A lot of people apply a lot of times to Blizzard, and you will not get the job you don't apply for. So try it. I would also recommend that you look through our associate and mid-level positions. They do come up. There are many online right now that you can see. And make sure when you craft that cover letter that you tell us why you're a fit for Blizzard and why Blizzard is a fit for you. The passion of the cover letter comes through, and the passion of the people that end up being on this stage and at Blizzcon and back at the office developing our games always shines through. So we want more people like that really just want to be here making great games. Doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter what your historical experience in the industry is. We want to hear from you.
So one thing, I actually started off my professional career as a process control engineer, working in industrial automation, so I kind of feel you there. I can't recommend enough, be passionate and make a project, make a game. When I was a process control engineer, I was playing EverQuest, and that was amazing. It blew my mind, and I'm like, I want to do that. So that's when I actually started getting into how do I program a game? You know, how do I transfer my skills in programming, you know, production lines over into programming PCs? So make sure your passion shows through. Make sure you make a project. Make sure we can see that when you apply to us, and you can bridge some of that gap of the experience you don't have in games with the experience you do have in industry.
Yeah, I think, you know, coming from the angle of, I want to do this job, but I've not professionally done it, even being able to take a step back and saying, well, I haven't done that, but I know that there's all of these things that I have done that will translate to some degree over there, right? And that's part of the cover letter, that's part of the passion, that's part of everything else, but being able to go, I even recognize that I'm not going to be this person that fits in this little box, but the experiences that I've had that are outside of that box may actually make things stronger than if you were to get somebody who was inside of that box.
Just last thing. So the problem though is all of the projects is that we don't have the a priori knowledge to be able to necessarily make something significant that would be impressive, and we've tried applying multiple times to positions that are, you know, above us in terms of requirements, but never anything. So I just, you know, that's what I was asking, because it's just like hitting a wall year after year, and like, I don't know, like how do you even, you know, like do you have to take specialized classes from specific universities that would offer something, or because in our universities is general engineering, we couldn't do that. So, you know, like I don't know any of those. How do you, what resources do you recommend to even be able to, you know,
Kommt
start
doch
with
mal
like,
alle zum
how to do
Punkt.
game design, what have you, I don't know.
So I talked at a university not
I
too
talk,
long
I
ago,
talk, I
and
talk.
one of the things that I tried to stress to
Talk,
people
talk.
was there is so many resources
Posten.
online right now. Like you can just sit down at your web browser and you can get tutorials of things that I had to muddle through years ago. It's really awesome, the knowledge that you can find nowadays online. The engines that you can use to code are free. You can just try them. Like that blows my mind when I think about it. You can get all these resources for free now. So that's, when I say make a project, that's what I'm saying. Go online, learn how to do that. Use the free tools you have available to you.
And remember, it's not about what you know as much as it's about how you think and you problem solve. And that is a skill that transcends all engineering disciplines.
Is there a specific site though that you'd recommend? Because I've tried so many different ones, it's just like I get lost in the information coming.
I think we're doing a meet and greet afterwards.
Oh,
If you hit me up over there, I can show you some.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to this side.
Hello there, my name is Gil, I'm a DevOps technical lead, and I want to know at Blizzard, how do you guys do experimentation? Because I can see flow, I can see feedback, but as operations, I wouldn't let a developer touch a PTR, never mind a production, and doesn't matter how many times a day. So how do you guys experiment rapidly?
How do we experiment?
Yes.
I would say we do that every day. Part of making something that is fantastic software is making new things, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and then building something that's better out of it. And I'll use like Sarah's thing as an example, our API platform, that's gone through like 4 major iterations where every single time we've done something, we tried something new, we went, oh, here are the parts that work really well, here are the parts that don't, so let's iterate on this and then do it. I think that's one of the things that Blizzard is relatively famous for, is iterating on things until they're fantastic, right?
It's also concentric circles, if you think about it that way, of who your test group is. Like, who's your audience right now? When you're early on, it's probably just your core team. Like, what are you trying to make? What's the game you're trying to build? What's the API you're trying to create? There isn't a whole lot of scale, which gives you a lot more freedom to make changes. Because you're not trying to service a lot of product at the same time. And then as you grow, Blizzard also does a lot of internal testing. So we'll test within our own team, and then we'll widen that circle a bit and have maybe a strike team. And then we'll widen that circle a bit and have the entire company testing in like an alpha. And the iteration in each of those phases is going to look a little bit different, but there is experimentation that happens all along the way, all the way through to live production, where we still experiment in places like PTR, but there's a lot before that as well.
I think this speaks a little bit to Rochelle's very first question about what is production code. So if you're doing rapid prototyping, you're just trying to put together a proof of concept. It doesn't have to be very stable. It doesn't have to be bug-free. It just has to prove out what you're trying to try out. So that you can get that done very quickly. Then if you want to bring that all the way to production level, that takes quite a bit more effort.
So basically for production, you're following the waterfall model? Are you following the waterfall model for production?
I think all of our teams follow different production models. We're more of a waterfall model on the World of Warcraft team. I know other teams use Scrum.
Yeah, most of the teams that I work with and on have been, Agile Scrum. But it really just, it depends on the team, right? Blizzard is a very big company, and each group is going to handle their methodology of getting things done in a slightly different way.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, let's go this way.
Alright, can you hear me? Alright, so first of all, I worked on this area for Blizzard. I interned here, which started my career off as a software.
Sorry, do you mind speaking a little bit?
Oh, okay, cool. Anyway, there we go, louder, right?
Yes.
Alright, so I interned at Blizzard and worked on the Stipendiary team in the QA department, and that spurred off my career as a software engineer, because I took one intro computer science class. Right now, I work as a web development guy in San Francisco, and this question specifically for Diane, what was your biggest hurdle you faced, right? Like, I can look at websites and applications and web apps and be like, okay, this is how this works, I can figure it out. I look at Overwatch and I know it's a million lines of code and everything's working together. I can't even begin to fathom how all that pieces together. So I know that I can go and remake Tetris or something like that, but like, specifically for you, what was your biggest hurdle making that jump from web development to what you do now? Or your first position?
Yeah, I would say there were two major things. Number one is actually working with confidence to go, hey, this is really what I want to do, right? And part of that was saying, hey, in the background of other stuff that I'm doing, I'm going to spend some of my own time and try to work on a video game. And every couple of months, I would bring it in, I would show people around the office, like, hey, look at this cool thing I did, right? And it's really small and it's really simple. But that helped to give people the confidence that, oh, well, we have the software engineer who can do so much on the web development side, and we're starting to see what she might be able to do on the game development side, that, you know, maybe she can make that jump, right? So a lot of that hurdle was really, A, taking the time for myself to go, this is where I want to be, so I'm willing to invest in myself in order to be able to get there, and then having that self-confidence to go, hey, I'm outside of the box, right? It's some of the stuff I was talking about earlier. I'm outside of that box, but being outside of that box might give a lot of things that people who have come up through the game dev side may not think about, and so I may bring something to the table that other people don't.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you want to get into it, do it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Tools einfach.
Thank you.
Tools oder Tools nicht. Es gibt
Hi, yeah, my name is Eric, and I have a background in software engineer, traditional software engineer.
Ganz einfach.
And I also have my own game studio where we push out our own stuff. So we put out our own games and things like that. So, and I'm in the middle of applying for a position at Blizzard. What sorts of things would you look at on my GitHub profile or something else that might make you say, hey, I want to call this person back and talk to them more?
Unit tests.
Yeah.
That's, for me, it's going to be like core fundamentals. Can you write good code? If somebody were to come to you and say, hey, we need to re-architect how you're storing all of the data, right? Like how much work would it take to be able to do something like that, right? And it's just kind of amorphous examples, but it's really just, you know, do you know good software architecture? And then beyond that, it's like, are you doing things that are in the realm of the stuff that maybe I want to hire for? Right? Because I may be looking for a particular position, and do you have some of those elements? But the first line of, I'll say, defense, for me is that, you know, are you writing code that other people would look at and go, oh yeah, that's solid code, like that's good stuff.
Yeah, so if I look at your GitHub and your variables are all named A, B, C, or I and J, it's a bad sign. That's a bad way to start. I look for consistency, like from project to project in your GitHub. Did you follow your own coding guidelines? Because you probably have some bouncing in your head. Is your code commented? Would I be able to jump in and maintain it? And then, yeah, past that, it's going to be domain specific as to what you're applying for.
There's also some element of what position are you applying for. So if you're applying to be a gameplay engineer on a game team, I'm probably going to care about, do you have interest in that type of game? Or if you don't know what the game is because it's a new project, like, does it align with what we're trying to do from what you're passionate about already? You can't take that stuff, right? But if you're applying to be more of a server engineer, then I'm going to care more about, do your projects, does your GitHub, does your experience speak to stability? Do you think about those kinds of things? I may be less interested in what kind of games you play, if it matches exactly with this one. It depends on the role, but we're looking at that too. Is it a fit across the board? And also, what does your code look like?
Thank you.
Hey guys. Most people think of QA as blood finders and final quality checkers. But as a QA test engineer, I know that we do a lot more than that. We ensure quality from the top to bottom of the development stack. And I'd like to know, kind of on a, I know it's different from game to game, but from your experience at least, how does Blizzard integrate QA into the development process holistically? From UX to the development of code, shipping, and then support afterwards? It's a big question, but you know, what would you like to answer?
Sure. Go ahead.
So in World of Warcraft, we have a few embedded QA engineers on the team with us, and they help us with day-to-day operations as people report through our internal mailing list the issues they may see in the daily build. The QA will investigate it, file a bug, and assign that to an engineer. And then on the larger scale, we have the QA department in general. They have an automation team that is doing automated testing. They have routine testing them where they're going through checklists. They'll have various focuses. If we're about to release a patch, then they'll be focused on testing that, running through checklists, running through automated testing. We interact with QA pretty tightly.
And on web and mobile, as I mentioned earlier, it's Agile Scrum, so we have these small Scrum teams. There's a QA engineer in every single one of those Scrum teams. And basically, for a lot of those teams, what would happen, and these are the ones I directly oversaw, managed, worked in, whatever, was before a story could get closed, QA signed off on it, right? So not only do we have the product owner go, yes, that looked good, but we also have QA say that didn't cause any bugs to happen. That really helped cut down the end cycle time, right? Of, hey, we're about to go live. Do we need a month to test everything? Which is the environment that we looked at before, right? Like a new update to the WoW site might take a month worth of QA, and we would get that down to 2 hours, right? And that was working very closely hand in hand with QA the entire step of the way.
Thank you very much.
Link to Paripatch.
Hello. I'm an IT consultant, and I jump around a lot, but I've mainly been focusing on Ansible and dabbling in OpenStack. And I look on the job applications, and I don't really see anything that really fits kind of my skill set. What skills or other things do you recommend for someone who's looking to become a better, or basically bring more skills to become someone who get hired?
From what you just said earlier with Ansible and everything else, it sounds like you're more on the systems engineering side, right? And we have a lot of systems engineers, right? We have entire departments dedicated towards doing those sorts of things. So it's actually broadening out from just, I say just, but broadening out from that area into general systems engineering skills. And then applying in the IT departments, because we definitely need people at the same rate we need software engineers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Erin. I'm a business analyst and project manager in corporate IT. So working in corporate IT, specifically with companies that have grown and continue to grow, a topic that comes up a lot is technical debt. I was wondering how much of that you guys encounter with Blizzard, a company that's constantly rapidly expanding, and how you begin to assess that technical debt and decide what approach to take with it.
I would love to say we're debt free, but that would be a lie. I think that each one of us could spend a long time talking about the things we'd love to change. From games that have a long legacy, right? We have old code in there that has to intermingle with new code. We have decisions we made years and years ago that were great at the time, but no longer solve the needs of the game or the project. There's absolutely technical debt. And for each team, it's going to be different how that gets kind of balanced against the new features that are coming up. So this was a conversation we had a frequent amount on Hearthstone. It still goes on. I'm not on the team anymore, but I can speak to how it looked back when I was. And there was a conversation always that needed to happen between, we have these features that we want to add to the game, and we have this tech debt that if we don't solve these problems, it will actually directly impact those features. So it became kind of like a cost analysis a lot of the time, and that requires both engineers and production and design to kind of be on board with understanding the problems. So it kind of goes back to what I mentioned before about communicating. You have to be able to articulate why is tech debt going to impact the game. It absolutely does, but once you can do that, you can have a conversation about trade-offs.
Great. Great, thank you very much.
We're getting towards the end now, so maybe 2 more questions, and then we'll have to start wrapping up, unfortunately. Go ahead, please.
All right, so this mostly for Colin, probably. Recently, as I think about last year, they announced that WoW was going from a longer cycle of content releases to a shorter cycle. On the engineering side, how did the organizational shift happen to allow for those much rapid iteration on content cycles?
Well, for one thing, we expanded our staff. So when we initially shipped WoW in 2004, we had 12 engineers. If I am correct, I think we now have almost 75. So it's just a bigger team. But other than that, I think we've refined our tooling, we've refined our processes a bit, and certainly we've introduced more automated testing, more unit tests, more things that will facilitate more rapid development.
Mein Kameramann! Auf mit dem Bild zu wackeln!
Hello, my name is Lucas Norpshin. I'm a computer science major with a focus in system architecture. And my question is, will any Blizzard games ever be ported to Linux?
Be ported to Linux.
Oh. Our servers run on Linux.
That's true fact. True fact right there.
Yeah, I work on a Mac every day. I mean,
that's all we can say about that. Okay. we still have a couple more minutes, so maybe let's go to this side.
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm a software engineer, and I just want to say that I'm really happy that I see so many women in the panel. It makes me super happy. Yeah, it's really nice to see the representation. I love how the development team has bring in like so many strong female characters, and it's like expanding everywhere. I still feel like we have a way to go, especially also in esports. But in general, I asked this question 2 years ago. How many women are usually in a team, like the percentage of women versus men in a team? And with all the efforts that have been going on around Blizzard, has that increased in the last 2 years?
So diversity and inclusion across all dimensions, but definitely in gender is super important to us at Blizzard. It's personally very important to me, as you might imagine. And it's something we are looking at. We have a Women's Advisory Council that sits together every other week and discusses this. How do we move the meter? What do our numbers look like now? How do we get the people who are here already to feel included? How do we get people who are engineers and other disciplines to want to join us and join our team? It matters to have a diverse representation, and it's great that we have that up here today. I'm so excited to be sitting here with these people. It matters. If you want to talk more about this, we actually have a Nexus that's down the hallway. I recommend going to visit, and this is a topic that we care very much about. You can also come chat with me over there after the panel ends at the meet and greet. I would love to talk to you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. All right, that's going to wrap up our Q&A section. Thank you to everyone that came up to ask a question. If you didn't get a chance to catch
Total informativ.
you can catch the panelists to your left behind the audience in our meet and greet area after the panel, and we'll be there once we conclude the panel. Yeah. All right, so let's wrap up. So, software engineering at Blizzard has a wonderful history that goes back to our founders, Alan, Frank, and Mike. Talented folks like the ones you met here on the panel today are working hard to continue that legacy and to ensure our players are having the most epic entertainment experiences ever. Thank you for joining us here and at home. We hope that you enjoyed the panel and you're enjoying your Blizzcon 2018. For our panelists, for Scott Emerson and Grant Davies, I did get it right. Grant, excuse me. For our production team as well, thank you to everyone, and thank you to our audience for joining us today.
Yay!